So exactly what I didn't want to happen happened. We follow football, and as soon as the football talk ends, all the men run out the room. So if you're a man and you're still here and you came for the football, can you sit the fuck down, please? Because I think, well, we've just been discussing this. I'm going to get straight into it. Hi, I'm Katie. Activism sounds really fucking scary, but it is exactly what us women need. It's not just allies. And the reason that I'm super passionate about this, well, one is because, does anyone in here follow me on LinkedIn? Doesn't matter if I literally have hardly any hands up. Excellent, there's a few. For International Women's Day, I put on an event. I wanted to do something that was a bit different. Lisa came along. And because often as women in the boardroom, it is mainly us women that are on our own, and we're in a room of, I'm going to be really mean today, sorry guys, but pale, stale males. That is how I have lived the majority of my career. I wanted to flip that over and change the game and get a man to understand what it felt like to be in a room full of women. So we ran a bit of a campaign on LinkedIn, asked guys to apply to come so that they could hear our voices, so that they could understand where we're coming from. And I think it was quite an impactful afternoon, wasn't it? But one of the amazing ladies in the room, she is, I can't remember her job title now, I think like e-commerce director, or no, actually she's CTO at Deckers, which is Uggs and all nice, cool shoes that we all love. And she said, Katie, her kind of ending comment was, we do not need male allies. We need male activists, because we need men in the room that are happy to call out other men or other women when they're saying something derogatory, when they're not talking in the right frame of mind. And yeah, it just really, really stuck with me. So that is what I've based today's panel upon. I would love if there are men in the room, for you guys to become these activists that we maybe need. But I'm actually going to hand back to you, Lisa, first up, because do you want me to read out the little thing that you just sent me? Have you got it? Because I've forgotten it. And my mum's trying to phone me. So Lisa brought up something really interesting, I think, about positioning the difference between activists and allies. So over to you, Lisa.
So I looked up hi, I'm Lisa. I'm Lisa Påske, which no one can pronounce. So when I go to a restaurant, I just say Pashi, because that's now who I am. I've looked up the definition of what an ally is. So ally comes from a Latin word called allegra, I think. And it basically means to stand by, to support, right? So that's really the main theme of being an ally, which is great. But activism as a definition is to take action for change. And I think that's really where it lies. It's really good to have support, and maybe the difference is, oh, I'm sorry that happened. But calling out and saying, no, that's not okay, is kind of where activism is in this scenario. We're not saying that you should be an activist and constantly go and tell everyone how to do things or how to be. And I think maybe that's the kind of danger of what that word kind of resonates with some. But yeah, that's really the definition of those two words.
And you've got some comments on that, I know.
My name's Seb. I run my own coaching consultancy, The Helpful Space. I also used to be a development coach over at Social Chain. And I guess this is work, or an area of my work that's become more sort of prominent in the last couple of years. I need to sort of give a little bit of context, if that's okay, as to sort of where that came from. But essentially, I don't know, there's a lot of marketing people here. You probably know Bloom in London and Bloom North in Manchester. And I used to go to these Bloom North events because all my female friends were running these amazing sort of panel discussions about all these incredible topics that were affecting females, all different types of females. And I was sitting in the audience realizing that it wasn't my time to speak, because there were all these stories about other types of people. And what happened was I just started to hear these stories a bit more closely. I started to hear about microaggressions in the workplace, and I started to understand how women who'd maybe had children had been affected when they'd gone back to work. And I started to realize that I hadn't really heard these stories before. I'd not really absorbed them or really given them kind of the consideration that they deserved. And I sent a message to the president. This was a female-run committee of all women. And I said, I feel like more men need to hear this stuff, right? Because men have been part of the systems that have caused the problems, and men therefore need to be part of the solutions as well. And she said, oh, Seb, how do you fancy being our head of allyship? And I was like, well, that's kind of zero to hero, but okay. And I've been doing that work for about 1.5 years now, and I feel really sort of passionate about it because for me, it's the journey that you go on as you learn about this stuff and what it does for you personally and in your work that I think more men need to understand. You know, words like activism and allyship can be a bit off-putting, and I think some people think, I don't really have time for that, I've got a job to do, my life's really busy. What they don't realise is that there'll be some learning for them along the way that's really important.
Very good. I mean, this is what we need more of. It's like, I think kind of Seb's hit the nail on the head. I always get sayings wrong. But, you know, we're not expecting you guys to be chanting about this every day on social or, you know, even saying anything that's outside of your comfort zone. It's just when you see the shit, call it out. It's almost that simple. That tiny little change that would make the biggest difference to us. In fact, I mentor an amazing group of women. I'm not going to call out the business, but it's a social media, the digital and product team at a very large UK business. And one of the amazing women that I'm mentoring at the moment said to me the other day, she was on a call, and one of the guys, she's in a tech team, product tech team, and on the call, one of the guys had recently got engaged, and someone else on the call went, "Oh, man down," and she just felt shit. She was like, "I feel excluded. I feel like, because I'm a woman taking a man down because I'm, if I get married," and it just was totally the wrong tone for a work call. Now, all the guys would have probably thought that's quite funny or not even thought about it. Like we all, I've been there in these conversations, but it makes a lot of women feel like shit and then not be able to stand up or say what they want to say in a meeting. And it's, that doesn't even sound that offensive, right? But it is, and it made her feel like she couldn't speak up in her meeting because she was surrounded by a group of men. So it's calling out little things like that I promise you will make all the difference. And it doesn't have to be calling it out directly in the meeting. It can be taking someone aside afterwards or having a chat with it. And that goes for women as well, right? Like, I need to get better at calling things out. Katie DLC sat in the front here, who used to work for me. And we worked with some amazing teams. But there was one particular person that used to refer to us, because my business is called Street, and my name is Katie Street, the Street Girls. And a few of the team, because I have by accident employed mainly women, but it was quite offensive. So we called him out on it, and he was really apologetic. He didn't mean it. He hadn't even thought what it meant. So it's just us as well, sometimes being brave enough to call people out when they're saying something that the tone is affecting our confidence or making us feel a bit crap. Anyway, sorry, I've gone on way too long there. Lisa, I know. Lisa, by the way, I absolutely love. Met her in a stand-up comedy gig. We haven't kind of bigged up who she is. She sold her agency for multi-millions of pounds. She's an absolute rock star. She's hopefully teaching me how to sell my business for multi-millions of pounds. But does some amazing things around, women in leadership, and is really empowering a lot of women to, do better in their careers, but also scale and sell their agency businesses. So anyway, just big up to Lisa before I hand back over to her.
Okay, thanks for that. That is true. I did run an agency for 15 years and then sold it, had a breakdown, then started doing comedy, because that makes sense, right? when you can, what is it they say? What doesn't kill you makes you funnier. Yes, I think one of the biggest kind of challenges is knowing when you should be calling something out and when to support, right? So we had a little chat beforehand, and I find this really interesting because having been working in SEO, so I run an SEO agency, which is very male-focused. So I started in about 2005. So most of the kind of conferences and stuff that I did, it was mostly men. So I had a lot of incidents where things were quite outrageously sexist or harassment, etc., which is quite easy to then say, yeah, no, that is definitely wrong. It's harder when it's like small micro things that the person might not even know what they're saying. But just to give you some examples, and this is where I think we really need to start making the change by taking action and actually saying that's not acceptable. And I've had so many of these. Like even as a CEO, when I was running the agency, I remember one pitch with a couple of my employees that were male, and all the technical questions they asked the guys. And this was like perfect example of allyship. So these guys were like in their early 20s. I kind of trained them, and one of them just said, look, I think there's been a misunderstanding here. You're asking me the technical questions, but she's the technical one. And everything I know, I learned from her. And so that is a perfect example where you don't need to say anything like harsh or angry or anything. You just pointed out the truth, and that's all you need to do. Or other scenarios I've had, there's been so many. But I did a pitch, again, running an agency, where in the pitch they asked me, are you going to have another baby? And I was like, what? And they were like, well, it seems like you do a lot of the work, so we kind of need to know whether you're going to have another baby. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this has actually happened. And we were actually given the feedback that they chose the other agency. It was between two at that stage because they were too worried that I would have another baby. And so this isn't that long ago. This was like 2011, 2012, still a while ago. But that is kind of outrageous. And those scenarios, anyone could say something. So it is some cases, it is just very obvious that action and activism is necessary. But there's also a lot of examples where it's finer. And I know you have lots of examples of this.
I just going back to that situation, I think it's really important to think about what caused that problem. Like, why did that guy say what he said? The likelihood is probably that he spent his time in quite a narrow circle of people. And I think we need to, we're talking about problems here and challenges when people say the wrong thing, but we also need to helicopter out of that a bit and just think about what we should all try and do a bit more of. For example, spend time with people who are different from you. Ask people to tell you about their life in whatever way so that you understand a bit more about them. Read texts from people who you wouldn't ordinarily read texts from, or books or whatever. This is what people need to do, because we know that we're being played off against one another. It's going to happen soon again with the election. Everyone is polarized. Everyone is siloed within the same group of people as themselves. And what we're trying to say is actively reach out to people who are different from you. Try and understand what their lived experience is like. Listen more and don't feel the need to speak. You know, these are all like great things that are skills that you will develop if you start to lean into the work in this particular way. And I think it's really powerful.
Yeah. I think maybe the problem though is that I feel like a lot of women have already done this, so we just want to actually now be seen as equal. And I think that's kind of where you're at. Like, even after building a company, while having a second baby, running it, selling it, I still got those comments. And they don't disappear. And then going into comedy, oh my God, that is a pit. So, you know, like, that's it. I love that we should see this as a soft thing of thinking about, but people aren't really naturally that reflective. So I think it's still needed. We still need people that will call out, and I think that's the thing. Is that it is good that we educate, and it's great that we try to encourage, but also it is time to just say, it's enough now, and that's not acceptable. And I think that can also be done in a way that is, you know, strict or like this is not acceptable, but still not aggressive. Although that takes me on a whole different route of like anytime a woman says anything strict, she's aggressive and emotional.
Yeah, that is so true, right? Like we're taught. Sorry, I just have to play in here, Seb, because I know you've got something to say. But I love to talk. That we're taught from a young age. I mean, God, I was taught my grandma, to be seen and not heard. Clearly, did not listen. But to be seen and not heard. To please. I'm going into like my personal relationships here, but like to be the cool girl. It's fine. Let your boyfriend go out till 5 a.m. and treat you like shit and cheat on you. If you go mental, then you look like a mental bitch. You're not allowed to do that. You've got to dumb it down. You've got to be cool. You don't want to seem like the crazy psycho bitch. Like that's what we're taught as women. We've got so much to contend with here. Like it's fine for guys. They can do what they like. Like I'm not saying that, but this is how I grew up. I'm a 41-year-old woman. This is how I was brought up as a teenager, and to play it cool. Even like my friends' mums would be like, play it cool, act like you don't care when you do care. Like why can't I say I care? And if I say I care, then I'm put in a corner and, oh, you're an unattractive woman because you're too bossy. Do you ever hear a man get called bossy? Never. Men don't get called bossy, just women. So anyway, there's a lot clearly I'm very passionate about to unpack here. But that's the whole point. We need men with us. We need them on our side. It's not men against women. And it's certainly nothing's going to change if we continue to be a female echo chamber. Like this is about us working together to make some real change. And that's where I want to go to Seb, because I know, you see yourself not necessarily as an activist, but as someone that is trying to learn with us. Because I don't fucking know what the rules are. I don't know how to do this. Lisa probably seems like she knows a little bit more than I do. But like, I think, Seb, to hear from you, what is it that you're trying to do to help us make a change?
I'm fascinated by people, different types of people. I just think that's why I'm a coach. I'm really interested in people's stories, how they operate, where they come from, all of these types of things. And I think like with everything, we just have to slow the pace down. Like everyone gets angry really quickly, and I completely appreciate why you felt angry in those scenarios. Don't get me wrong. Like I totally get it. Well, I say I totally get it. I don't, because I've not experienced it in the same way as you have. But I think we just need to slow down and listen more. As you were talking about that, I don't know why my mind shifted to it, but when I started doing this allyship work, when I got the title Head of Allyship, and I'm talking about it a bit on LinkedIn, I got pulled into a thread, a conversation by a lady who is very prominent in the sort of gender equity space and very much a positive force. And she said, Seb, you're a head of allyship. I need your involvement in this thread because there was a guy on there who was saying something that wasn't particularly helpful. And I did, and I went in and I tried to be balanced and I did the thing. And then a week or so later, she did the same thing again, and she tried to loop me into a thread. And I thought, I'm not here to fight social media battles for people. I'm here to do the work from the top and have it filter down. And so I didn't go into the thread. Then I got linked in by her again into another thread that said, all these fantastic allies I really appreciate. Then we have people like Seb Randle, who is nothing but a performative ally. Oh. And it honestly, my voice is shaking a little bit saying it now, because for 3 to 6 months afterwards, I thought, this isn't the space for me. Like, I'm interested in everybody and supporting everybody. I was thinking maybe I should be supporting men. Maybe I should be supporting men who can't who don't have that emotional awareness. Maybe I should be doing that instead of this. And so that's an example of someone who understands all the challenges we're talking about, and yet they're perpetuating this same similar behavior. And I don't understand that at all.
I'm so sorry, that's really shit. But I think that's what we were talking earlier as well. This is where the world at this point in time, we're so quick to cancel or to judge that people become afraid of talking and afraid of standing up, and that is not what we want. So as women, we really should allow everyone to be able to do what they feel comfortable with. And maybe that's the word activism. It sounds scary, but you can't shout at someone and then expect them to change their mind. And I'm really sorry that that happened, because we need people that will speak and that will say what they think and from a man's point of view. So that's really not on. But it does happen, and it happens especially on social media, where everyone just wants to furiously say what they think at that time. But that is the kind of cancel culture I feel, which isn't right.
No, not helpful. Now, we've got a minute left.
But it's more about the things that you can do in the moment. Like social media is the most influential thing, we think. But what really changes things is when it happens in the moment, in real life. So maybe yes, just say I can't be roped into all of those. Sorry. Yeah. Oh my God, I can talk forever.
I love this. Don't put us on stage together. It will never end. Right, I have 1 minute. So my one wrap up and takeaway, and I'm going to ask you guys to do a very quick 20-second one as well, is speak up. One thing that I have learned is the more I talk about this stuff, the more I'm able to share with all of you lovely lot, the more people understand. So for me, my thing as a woman or a man, speak up about the things that you've seen or heard. Lisa?
Yes, same. Like, just speak up when it happens, and don't be afraid to tell someone, because I think as women especially, there will be many stories, and being able to tell someone also helps.
I'm going to dissect the speak up bit, because a little framework that I really like is call in the bad behavior. So first off, try and call it in. So it's almost like if you were talking to you know, when your parents have a view that's a little bit, oh, Dad, you can't really say that. You know, you sort of pull them aside and you tell them, don't you? If that doesn't work and it still continues, maybe call on somebody else who can help you communicate to that person. Look, I mentioned that to you before, and we really think that you need to stop doing that. And then if that doesn't work, call out the behavior. I mean, obviously there's certain situations where you do need to maybe call out straight away. But I think that's a nice way of, you know, thinking exactly how you're going to do it in a way that's compassionate yet fair or whatever. So, yeah.
I love that.
Fab. Thanks, guys. Big round of applause for my amazing panelists.